Good morning, guys. Happy Saturday. We're going to be trying something new today. I'm really excited about it. I'm here in the studio. I'm in my own office right now. I'm not on the water, but we do have our buddies out on the water. Let me mute the YouTube live show.
Oh, big fish.
Okay, guys.
Fish. Oh, boy.
Are you guys hooked up?
We are hooked up on the Rage Craw right now on a biggin.
Oh, guys, this is cool. This is perfect timing, man. All right, guys. We've got Nick, the Informative Fisherman, out there. Matt Frazier, Bass Pro, and then Matt Tozer. And I'm going to let them talk you guys through what's going on right now. It looks like Matt Frazier's hooked up with a big one.
Oh, yeah. We got Stud Lee. We got Stud Lee on.
Oh, yeah. Coming slow. Here it comes. Like, give action.
Oh, yeah. That Frazier is mouth. Strike King Rage Craw. That's what we're out here to show you. Can you pose with your fish, sir?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, let's get another.
Yeah, I just, oh, yeah.
Show them that. Bring that up closer.
Woo! That'll start it off. Hopefully we get a bunch more of those.
Ah, yes.
Oh.
Bye-bye. Good to meet you.
Oh, we're going to do a little jump?
Oh, look. Oh, she's going to jump. Oh. She's a dancer. Yeah, go ahead and jump however.
All right, guys. Absolutely unreal start to the morning right there. In a million years, we couldn't have planned that any better. All right, guys. So let me break down what's going on today. Late one night while Nick and I are, whispering sweet nothings to each other over late phone calls like we often do, brainstorming different ideas on how to video stuff a little better and how to kind of push the industry. We came up with, we wanted to do a live feed out on the water where it's an instructional, entertaining type atmosphere. And we decided that we were going to give up our weekends and actually try to do this on a weekend because we figured people are at home and instead of watching, television fishing shows, they can start doing some live stuff. And so we're going to keep experimenting with this and see if this ends up working out. Obviously, today is going to be a little rough. Oh, we got fish. We got action. We've got action. All right, so guys, right there, that's Matt Tozer. He's a local stick out here on the water. It's Lake of the Pines. And little fish need love too, Matt.
Hey, Pink Dynasty.
It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger, baby.
Well, guys, way to turn it on for the camera.
So that's one on a Ned rig. And that's on a jig, right? You use that as a jig trailer?
That's actually on a Ned too. I'm going to throw out
Matt Tozer had a Ned rig with a skirt using that Rage Craw. And I'm throwing it on a Shaky head. So we're going to show you a whole bunch of different patterns and get you guys dialed in.
Nice. So plenty of action, guys. Welcome. You guys are hopefully sitting all over the country tuning in. I actually just saw someone post that they're watching from Iraq. So all you guys serving overseas and everything, I always want to throw a shout out to you guys. Thank you guys for your services. I know that I can speak for myself. When you guys come back out, get home safe and look me up. You guys always have a spot on my boat. We'll do some fishing adventures and stuff. And I'm sure Nick will jump on board with that as well. So
that
anyway,
goes for me too. Absolutely.
Hopefully this is a nice entertaining day for you guys. Once again, we've got the boys out on the water right now. On your right hand side of the screen, we've got Bass Pro Shop Pro Matt Frazier. Yep, Nick's touching him right there. Matt just a second ago stuck a great fish, and that was as exciting as a show as I've ever seen start off, man. So nice work, Matt. Way to do that. Then moving over to the left side of the screen, we've got Nick, the Informative Fisherman. You guys should all know this guy. You should be very familiar with his face. If you guys haven't been watching his videos, he does great how-to tutorial videos where he goes into more depth than you would ever be able to understand in a full lifetime. But he also starts you at a very easy side of things as well. So he's going to give you the full spectrum. If you're a beginning fisherman, you want to start out, he's going to give you information for you how to get going. And if you are a expert fisherman and believe that you know everything, you're still going to learn from this guy. Then, captain of the boat, all the way up front, is Matt Tozer, a local here on Lake of the Pines. And he's showing them all the good spots and making sure they're on good water, and even making sure they've got as good of service as they're going to get out there, because that's going to be one of the things we're running into is spotty service. And let's bring up the subject for today. Nick, you want to hold that in front of the camera?
I sure do.
Guys, all of you guys that get Lucky Tackle Box in your box last month, you got the Strike King Rage Tail Series Rage Craw. And that's what the guys are out throwing today. All three of them have got the Rage Craw tied up, but they've got it rigged different ways and stuff. And because there's a lot of different ways to rig this thing. So that's really what this show is all about today, is going over the different ways to rig your baits, to really understand that there's not just one way. You've got to tailor it to your own water, and then also the conditions that year. And so that's what we're gonna be able to ask these guys live questions as they're out there, and really just kind of explore fishing and hopefully learn a bunch as we're being entertained as well. So Nick, do you want to break down a little bit? Do you want to break down a little bit of the conditions out there today?
Yeah, I can tell you exactly what we're working with today. Well, we've been having a ton of storms here in Northern California, in case you guys don't know. It's been cold, rainy. We've been getting more water than we've got probably in the last 10 years. So we've been dealing with a lot of flooding, a lot of muddy water. And then when we came out of it, we're about 3 days into a slight warming trend. We got pretty much clear bluebird skies all day long for the next week, it looks like. So what we're looking at, we came out here this morning, the water temperature starting off with 45 degrees, which is very, very cold. You know, and a lot of people think cold water, bluebird sky days, it's going to be really tough, but that's actually an opposite in the wintertime. Bluebird sky days kind of encourage these fish oftentimes to feed in the wintertime, because right now we got a murkied up lake. We got a foot now, so they need. So we're making bottom contact the whole time with these Rage Craws. Right here I'm on a Shaky head.
Nick, we're a little bit laggy with you right now.
We're throwing a head on chatterbait. We're a little bit. We got another fish on. This is what I tip for talking. Big fish, Matt Frazier.
Just keep talking, man.
Come up here. Up here.
There's a double.
Come right up here. Come 2 steps up this way where people can see. Turn the boat slightly left there. Make sure you guys can see everything. Are you still with us?
Yes, we can see.
All right. Okay, let me know if she's going under. Okay, she's right here. How's that look, guys? Can you see Matt's rod?
We can see half the rod.
Okay. She's going down. There we go.
Attaboy.
Yes.
Oh boy. Ned rigging that Rage Craw.
How are you working that, Matt? Obviously, what you're doing is working right now. So what's the cadence you got going on?
Actually, it through. I'm gonna go ahead and go. I'm keeping it in contact with the bottom real good. So I'm not lifting it up. I'm not kind of hopping it. I'm actually dragging it just continuously. The grass and then the little rock pile here, and when you hit that rock, it's just boom, like that.
Fish on.
Like that. Oh, came off.
I might have to switch out from the shaky head. These guys dragging. There seems to be more of a ball head deal. We'll see. I'm gonna get one on a shaky head. I just want one on a shaky head. Or speeding. So yeah, basically what I was talking about conditions earlier. You still with us, Travis?
Yes, we are.
So when I was talking about conditions earlier, this is really, really cold time of year, and I find that the bluebird sky
Nick, you guys are breaking up a little bit again. Nick, you guys are real glitchy right now. You want to move the boat over to that spot? You guys were getting a little better reception earlier.
Be better. The river. Okay, side 2. We got a couple of big fish that we're going to try to get for you guys. And There's a big giant one. That's the one. That's
Nick, can you hear me okay?
That's huge. We got a big one on.
Oh, just came off.
Just came off. No.
Nick, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
You guys, can you guys move over to where you were getting better reception earlier? Because you guys are real glitchy right now.
Okay, we're trying. We're scooting around this. We had a better signal out here earlier, so we're trying to get into a better spot for you.
Okay.
We also want to show you big fish on these baits, and we found some big fish here, guys, so bear with us.
All right, guys, as these guys are moving around, Nick, what did you say the water temp was?
45 degrees.
45 degrees, guys. So they got 45-degree water temps. That's cold for California. I guess there's probably a lot of you guys watching right now all over the country, and you're probably sitting in 0 degrees weather or something like that. Your lakes are frozen up, but 45-degree water temps is very cold for us. These fish, they slow down, and that's why these guys are fishing a little bit more of a finesse technique today. They've taken their rage craw, and they're throwing a little mushroom head little weight right there. So they got the little exposed thin wire hook, and what they're doing is they're what size weight are you using, Nick?
I'm actually throwing on an 1/8 ounce. What weight are you throwing, Matt? Huh? Same.
Too, Matt.
Oh yeah. Frazier is
using,
throwing 1/8 ounce, and I'm also throwing on an 1/8 ounce. And I'll explain something. We were fishing, 10 to 20 foot of water. And I like to start off with a little ball head jig around 1/4 ounce, dealing with a lot of grass. And we were also getting caught on the rock. So our jig head was dropping a little too fast. But this way, with that 1/8 ounce, we can kind of come over a rock, and that rage crawl kind of just kick, and it'll glide down the other side. So it's a much slower presentation, and the bait has a lot more subtle glide, and it doesn't dig into the bottom as hard. We found that we're getting snagged a whole lot less often, and we're still getting those quality bites. So that's why we went lighter. We started off with 1/4, and now we're on an 1/8.
Okay. So, yeah, let me explain this real quick, guys. So watch this. We're on the whiteboard. Here's what Nick's doing. So Nick just said they were using 1/4 ounce to begin with. And what was happening, they're going over these big boulder rocks and stuff like that. And the heavier weight is gonna sink down to the bottom quicker, right? Now, when you've got all these nooks and cracks and everything like that, when you have a heavier weight, that's going to want to fall down between these little crevices and stuff. You're going to snag up a lot more. Now, so what Nick did, what all the guys did, is they went to a lighter weight. So they went to a 1/8 ounce head. And as their line is coming down to the water, this bait, as they're holding that weight of the line semi-tight, that weight actually doesn't have enough weight to it to actually fall down between those cracks as much. So that bait is just subtly hitting these rocks, and slowly, as they're dragging it, it's just dragging over these rocks, has a lot more natural fall to it. And they're able to fish the water. They're able to not snag as much, so fish more efficiently. But then a lighter weight is giving that bait a more natural fall. And these more lethargic cold water bass, that's a nice, easy meal to them. And that's been the difference between them all of a sudden hooking up. Because when we were testing the feed, they were catching fish every now and again. They were hanging up a little bit more. All of a sudden, they switched up. We went live, and they've been just I think we've had 5 bites now. So definitely a change worth making, and worth you guys noting that can be the difference between having a successful day and losing just a bunch of baits to the rocks.
Yeah, Travis, you're absolutely spot on with talking about that. And I get asked this quite often from individuals that say, oh, well, yeah, I got a few jig heads this weight, and then they don't get the in-between weights. But when you get a bite and there's biting fish, you're given the opportunity to perfect your presentation, whether that's chewing part of your plastic off and shortening the profile, switching to a bigger hook for your catch to land ratios higher, switching to a lighter weight to where your bait's a little bit more subtle and slower in the water column to get more bites, or making a slight color adjustment. This is why people say, why do you have to have so many lures? Why do you have to have so many things in bass fishing? These fish are the most intricate species in regards to changing hour by hour, day by day, month by month. They're constantly changing. And it's an enigma of rotating pieces in this mental puzzle game we call bass fishing. And if you're able to make those subtle changes by the subtle clues that you're given throughout a day, you can put it all together. This is why these professionals go out and they practice for a couple of days at a time before the big tournament. You know, if you go out there the same day and you fish every weekend your whole life, you fish a lot of club bass tournaments, if you go out on the same day as a lot of these pros, you might do just as good as them day one. But what they're doing is they're establishing these clues over those next few days. They're putting it all together to where, oh, that's the bottom. Once they put it all together, they're able to effectively perfect their presentation and able to pick water apart, so they will keep pulling away in that marathon we call bass fishing. They'll just progressively pull away over a day's time. And this is why each tournament's a few days.
Nice. Nick, I'll let you work on that snag here for a second.
Well, I'm working it.
All right, guys. So I'm going to be watching the comments section. If you guys have any questions for the anglers out there, feel free to write it down in the comments section, and I'll relay it. Oh, we're on. All right, guys. Frazier is putting on a clinic. Bass Pro Shops is proud right now. They picked him up last year, fitted him with a brand new nitro, and Matt is showing him what time it is. Oh.
Okay. He ate it too.
Consistent Frazier.
There it is. Wanted that last one. The last one was the good one.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Now, guys, one of the things that's really nice about the Rage Craws, basically, I like to break it down. There's basically like 3 different types of craw style baits. You've got the first one I ever started using would be the double tail grub. You know, you've got the 2 little grub tails, and those, you know, look like pinchers, and those kind of do the little twirly swirl on their way down. Those are great in clear water. You know, it puts off a lot of action, and it's you know, it can pull fish in from a long ways away. In that clear water, the spotted bass smallies, they'll come from a long distance to hit that bait because of the action it's making. Then you've got, I guess, the flapping style craws, which are, you know, you got those big appendages that you can use in that murky water, great for flipping because they displace a lot of water. As you're hopping that jig, it really displaces water as it's kicking, and these fish pick it up in their lateral lines and really can hone in on it. Now, the third style is kind of a hybrid of the two, and that's what this the Rage Craw fits under. A lot of brands are now making these kind of kicking style baits. So they've got the flapping style appendages. These appendages are a little bigger, so if you're just hopping this bait, it'll really displace some water. These fish can really feel it in the area. But then, because there's these little lips on each leg, as you pull this bait through the column, it does a little kicking motion. It kind of catches water as it's moving, and it will kick. And it doesn't do it. It doesn't always do it. It kind of does it as you have to give it a little bit of motion, and that'll do a kick thing. And so as you come over these rocks, or you get kind of hung up and you pull it free, that's usually what can be the trigger for these bass. And so as these guys are pulling, these fish will kind of track it. They'll be nose down this bait, looking at it. And as it pops free of something, it does a kick, and that looks like that bait trying to take off, trying to scurry away. And that's a lot of times when these fish are gonna hit it. Now, Frazier, do you have anything to add to that? You're the one, seems like you have the hot hand right now. What are you using, a real light line? What's the secret of what's going on out there?
I got 8-pound fluoro, 100% fluoro on. I'm actually, main key right now to me is just keeping it on the bottom. I'm not lifting at all. It's just, there is a lot of little grass down there. It's kind of annoying to go off the bait, but end up and it's just dead weight. It's a pretty fun bite, really. You don't know whether you got bottom or 8-pounder
Till it starts swimming.
Yeah, you guys, where they're fishing right now is Lake of the Pines. This is up in Northern California. There are some large fish in there. If you guys aren't following Matt Tozer on Facebook, Go check him out. He does a lot of live feeds from up there. And Matt catches some huge bass. So, Matt, what's the biggest bag you've had in the last month up there?
32 pounds.
32 pounds. And that's in winter time, guys. So, I mean, Matt spends a lot of time on the water up there, and he does a lot of live feeds. That's kind of where we came up with the idea to do it up at Lake of the Pines. And so if you guys want to randomly get some live feeds where you're getting some great action, definitely follow Matt on Facebook because he definitely does a lot of updates with that. Now, Nick, maybe you could talk us through Lake of the Pines has a lot of docks. It's got some different terrain. It's got big boulders. It's got some creek channels. What made you guys go out and fish the rock pile? Why does someone go fish these deeper rock piles this time of the year versus fishing a shallow flat?
You know, a general rule of thumb in regards to all bass fishing is the colder the water gets, the deeper they go. That's a general rule of thumb, and there is some fish that don't follow those rules. So never think anything in bass fishing is 100% rule because there's not. It's always just a really good educated idea on where you think the majority of the fish are at. So what we're looking for is deep spots with rock piles nearby. Rock pile that comes up into a little bit shallower water that gets a little bit more sun on it. And so we know these fish can transition up and down it. Rocks are going to hold crawfish. They're going to hold gobies. So this is an area where a bass that's living deep can easily come up in the wintertime, get a meal, and drop right back down. So our target is rock piles out in deeper water. We're also going to fish an area that has 3 creeks that meet together, and it's in about 20 feet deep. Now, the benefit of fishing 3 creeks is oftentimes when fish transition into the fall, they move into the creek channels and they start moving out to deeper water. So another good percentage of those bass will hang inside those creek channels because creek channels have a ledge, and that bass has nice little structure, and the creek channel takes them into shallow water, and so they use it as a highway. Imagine if you look at a river channel or a creek channel on a topographical map, bring up Navionics or something on your cell phone, or any topographical map for that matter. Imagine that creek channels and
We lost Nick. Nick's always full of some killer information, you guys. That's why he is Nick, the Informative Fisherman, because he'll dial you in and really make you think about your home water and stuff, and really spark some ideas. Because what Nick really brought up was nothing is set in stone with bass fishing. It's more about general ideas, and you go with what's worked for you before, and then if that doesn't work, you make adjustments until you figure out what's working again. So a guy that really knows a whole lot about that is the inventor of the Rage Tail line from Strike King, and that's Steve Parks. And Steve is on the line right now, and he's going to actually be talking a little bit more about the different Rage Tail series and how to rig them throughout the country. And so maybe this will help you guys dial in your neck of the woods. I know we've got some questions about how to rig it in Texas and even in Florida. And so Steve can really comment on that, and then he's going to be talking to guys through out on the water as well, and giving them some tips and really communicating back and forth with them, and then answering any of your questions you have. So Steve, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Travis. How are you?
Very good. We are breaking grounds right now, man. We're trying this new experiment of being out on the water live on a Saturday. We're bringing this is like what I grew up with, watching Saturday television, Roland Martin, Bill Dance, but now it's live. Now we can communicate and watch this stuff as it actually goes down. So I think this is a lot of fun. This is only going to get better as we get better technology here.
Cool, very cool. I understand Matt and Nick are out on the water right now. Clear Lake, is that correct?
Yes, they are. No, they're at Lake of the Pines.
Oh, Lake of the Pines.
A little private lake nestled up in the woods with some big fish.
Right.
Now, Steve, let's talk real quick about the Rage Craw. Let's give everybody a little quick rundown on why you invented this bait and why you believe it's a great bait for finding those big fish.
Well, for sure, all of us, whenever we're fishing, we want to have a bait that's actually going to attract fish. It'll do some of the fishing for us. A lot of the we already know how to put action bait that makes it attractive to a fish. But if we can actually provide our clients with a bait that has built-in live swimming action to it on the fall or with the slightest movement, then we can actually help everyone catch more fish. So that's what we've done with Rage Tail. It's a patented flange system to where what we do is we developed a little flange system on the appendages of the baits, and especially on the Rage Craw. It's got its two, on the two appendages, it has that Rage Tail flange. Even on the slightest motion, slightest movement of the rod tip, it actually, the claws and the appendages move for you. So it's a good swimming action.
Nice. Now, Steve, a lot of times people see a crossed out bait and they think, okay, it's just for flipping. Now, there's different ways to rig this that can make it a versatile bait. I mean, you could put this on a chatterbait. You could throw this on a football head and really cast it and bump the bottom, or you can flip it into the heaviest cover. What would be, I guess, 3 or 4 different ways that you like rigging this, and why you use these different rigs for these different conditions? Because I know we've got people that, in Florida that have got a bunch of grass. I know we've got people in Texas, they've got a bunch of wood. And then we're out in California, we got a bunch of rock and open pebbly kind of terrain and stuff. So what's the different ways you rig this thing?
Well, one of the most basic ways is a Texas rig. That's where you've got a bullet weight ahead, and the bullet weight is sliding up and down on the line. That's when you're basically in a casting situation, casting across a hard bottom or even a mud bottom, and small grass, short grass, and stuff like that. Texas rig works really well. Or, like you said, flipping is also a great way to use it. But a lot of people, they need to start, Carolina rig is one of the most underused ways to fish out there for big fish. I use Carolina rig quite a bit for big fish, and this Rage Craw is one of my mainstays for a Carolina rig.
Okay, Steve, when you're talking Carolina rig, what sizes are you talking?
Well, depending on if we're fishing in what I call slack water, there's not a lot of wind. It's a relatively shallow. It's a real finesse situation. I'm going to use a really light weight. I'll go down all the way to a 1/4 ounce. I'll put a 1/4 ounce Carolina rig, and that way the weight's not, especially in a soft bottom. You don't want a weight that's going to dig down into the mud, way down into the mud. So if it's a finesse situation, not a lot of wind, I'll use it all the way down to a 1/4 ounce. But I'll go all the way up to 1 ounce if I've got some wind and I want to fish some offshore type stuff, some ledges or some deep rocks. I'll actually use 1 ounce. And the length of your leader could vary anywhere from 18 inches all the way up to 3 foot.
Okay, so 18 inches to 3 feet.
Yep, that's about the average of what I use.
Why would you change the length of the leader?
Well, sometime, especially when there's a soft bottom. Okay, if there's a soft bottom, I probably want a little bit longer leader. I don't want a weight that's going to go way down into the mud and it's going to pull this bait down into the mud a little bit. Some of our bottoms are real mucky, and like Florida, some of our Florida lakes have a lot of some of those bars have a pretty soft bottom, and sometimes that muck is like, who knows, maybe a foot and a half deep. So if I'm using a lighter weight, it doesn't deep through the muck, and I don't have to worry about, and a little bit longer leader, I don't have to worry about the bait dropping down into it too far.
Okay. And then I know with Carolina rigs, you always put a swivel on a swivel. What about a bead?
Yep, I use a bead.
And tell me, why do you use a bead? What's the idea of having a bead?
Well, the bead is actually, sometimes I'll use different color beads. Sometimes it's a little attractant disc, kind of like, you've got a bait that's following this. Of course, the weight's ahead of it, but it's following this little red. And that little bead sometimes is a noise maker for you. It's a little clacker. It makes a little bit of noise. The fish can, when you're making noise or you have vibration on the bottom coming across rocks and stuff like that, sometimes the fish aren't right in your path that you're pulling that bait. So they have to hear it or they have to feel it through the pressure waves. And so when they feel it from a distance off, then all of a sudden they come to where they heard that sound. And then there's your bait following whatever this is that's making that sound. And that's when they eat it.
Nice.
It's just
okay. So now we've got Texas rig, Carolina rig. Now what else? What would be a third presentation?
Yeah, flipping for sure. You can just flip these, and when we flip, a lot of we'll use a weight stop. We want to keep the weight with the bait. We'll use a weight stop like that, head of our weight, so that the weight and the bait stay together. Or use you can actually use a toothpick in a weight. If you're going real heavy, if you're going like 3/4 ounce or something like that on your flipping weight, you probably should use a toothpick or a inline peg, like a rubber line peg.
Very cool. Now, Steve, we lost Nick right now, so I'm sure they're trying to move over to another spot where they get reception, because basically there's like little higher reception spots on the water, and so they're going to be moving back and forth between those. But now, Steve, you were just down in Mexico, and I actually have a link down in the description box of this video to the blog that you guys did while you were down there. But you guys stuck a lot of fish. This is stories that get me pumped up to jump back on the water. Can you bring me through a little bit of the, of the adventure you guys had down there this last time?
Sure. I was with Ron Speed Junior Adventures. Plus, also fishes the Amazon for big bass, but he outfits. Ron Speed Senior was the first outfitter in all of Mexico. Well, myself and another gentleman named Terry Odom with Odom Lures, we're fish finders for Ron Speed. And so what he does is he has us go down to these area lakes, these different lakes that he has. And on the first trip each season, we go down there the most big fish. And talking about fun, I mean, it's an absolute blast. And this trip, we went to Lake Comadero. You fly into Mazatlan. He flies you into Mazatlan. He picks you up. He takes you to the lake. Well, let me tell you something, folks. That was the greatest fishing trip I've ever had. If you can imagine, now this is true, and it's all, everybody's hearing about it now, but we caught between 20 and 30 fish, 2 days in a row, between 20 and 30 fish, over 8 pounds. And it was absolutely unbelievable. That lake has got to be the finest big bass lake in the world. And here's what we were using. We were actually using a tilapia colored jig, a trailer. And this is what we did all the damage on. And all those fish were anywhere from 18 to 25 foot water. And they were under a canopy of trees. What we had to do was find these fish. We don't have maps for the lakes. So all I do is take my 12-inch touchscreen Lowrance unit, and I just set it there, and I just find where I figure that, depending on the season, where I think those fish should be. And then we think fast, but we fish really slow, because once we pattern where these animals are, it's unbelievable. We would have to actually flip into one spot, hook a fish, bring him up, swing him into the boat. Terry Odom would flip right into the same spot, hook a fish, bring him in. I just drop my jig rod, pick up another jig rod, shoot it right into the same spot, and hook another fish. We had up to 8 fish in one spot, just sling them in the boat until we run out of rods of a jig, and then we have to take them off, throw the fish back, and go back in there. It was absolutely ridiculous fishing.
That sounds wild, man. All right, Steve, I'm coming down.
It was the greatest fishing trip I've ever been on in my life. I did 2 shows in 5 hours.
Big O hasn't fished with me yet.
Oh, now wait, Nick, I can't see you guys. You guys don't have I don't have a video feed on you right now.
Okay, we're trying to get over there.
Okay, that's what you guys are doing. So yeah, that's the guys are moving over to another spot where they think they have some more fish, and where they can also have cell reception. When we're trying to do these live feeds, there's 2 factors that come into play. You got to find the fish, but then you've also got to find the fish where there's a live feed that we can do. So this puts 2 different things on the whole idea.
But here's another important thing that I think we should think about when it comes to the Rage Craws. There's 3 different sizes. We have this as a standard rage craw, but we also have the granddaddy of them, which is the rage lobster. It's a lot bigger profile. And then we have the baby craw, baby rage craw, which is basically for the northern, basically for finesse and for the northern groups like the, like, there's a variety of different sizes of the rage craws that we can use.
Absolutely. Now, Steve, you're not familiar with this lake, but you are familiar with breaking down water. And this is what a lot of people, you know, I'm sure they're watching the show trying to learn about how they're going to fish, how they're going to go fish their water and stuff. So knowing a little bit of the facts that we talked about earlier before the show about Lake of the Pines, what would you suggest that these guys do with the water temps being about 45 degrees? You know, they got rocks in, you know, 5 to 20 feet of water. What would you suggest doing?
Well, for sure, we're talking about probably a pre-spawn situation and early pre-spawn, which means that the fish are actually moving from the mid parts of the lake, and they're moving toward the creek mouths, toward the main river mouths, toward some big coves, protected coves that they can spawn in. So I would concentrate basically on the points of those creek channel, the big creeks that are moving in, coming into the lake, or some of those big coves. Also look for creek channels that are coming together. I think Matt and Nick was probably talking to us about that earlier. There's some creek channels, 3 creek channels that come together where they're fishing, and that's a smart move. What you want to do, a lot of times the fish won't just be on the tops of the points of those creek channels. They'll be actually right in the gut of it, depending on what the depths are, what the temperatures are, and of course the clarity of the day. Looks like they've got some skies, really calm conditions. So that almost makes those fish, if you caught them yesterday and there was a little bit of wind and a little bit of cloud cover, I guarantee you today with clear skies and slick water conditions, those fish are going to be a little bit deeper.
Can you guys see us again?
We can. We
Yes.
can. You guys are back. So feel free to start catching some fish again here, guys. Oh.
Missed by that much.
Are you?
Well, we got a solid bottom on.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about what you guys just did, Nick, where you moved to and everything.
So basically what we moved to is there's a rock pile, like a long, try to imagine like a big letter L, a giant letter L on a taper, and that letter L is all rock. That letter L sits like this. We're starting from the top, we're casting down, bringing up, casting down, bringing up. Then we're going to position that boat farther down the L, and then we're going to cast deeper and bring it up, and that's how we're covering. We're preferring to move these baits uphill. The reason for that, these fish are associating to the bottom, to where if you cast deep and bring it uphill, you're continuously making bottom contact throughout your whole retrieve. That's the benefit versus casting shallow and bringing it down. Your bait's going to tend to pendulum away from the bottom, and it could get over the head of these fish. And they also don't have the option to pin it. Now they have to come up and get it, where they have to exert more energy, and it's the wintertime. They would prefer to pin it right on the bottom. So that's exactly what we're doing.
Nick, what other rigs did you guys bring out with you today when you guys were getting ready to go fishing?
Doing everything we can with this bait. The Rage Craw here is a super versatile bait in regards to drop shotting, Ned rigging, shaky head, using it as a trailer on a jig. A trailer is a chatterbait. Later in the day, warms up a little bit, we're going to try that chatterbait. And if we find that they're on just a concentrated rock pile, we're going to pick up the drop shot at that point to spend more time in that strike zone. But we're having to drag the bottom, still searching for where a more consistent bite is. Once we find that they're keyed into a particular area, that's where the bait like a drop shot's going to excel. If you know it's the size of a hula hoop, a rock ball out there, a little rock point, the top of an island top.
And Nick just froze it up a little bit. That's part of doing live stuff, guys.
Put a drop shot up there and just keep it in place. I lose you?
Just for a second here. You're back now.
Yeah, so if we find an isolated spot that's, no bigger than that's where you want to pick up the drop shot. and we know more than likely something's going to be close to that area, we don't want to search water with a drop shot. We don't want to cast out the drop shot and be dragging it too much. Doesn't work too good in the wintertime. Where it does work really good is if there's isolated structure. If we have a pile of rocks as big as the deck of this boat, we could throw it up there and sit time just moving it up and down without actually retrieving any line to get those fish to key in.
I like that. Steve-O, that goes really along with a lot of the stuff you like to do with isolated cover. You know, I know you fish a lot of wood and everything, and you really look for the when the wood you fish isn't necessarily isolated, but you look for the difference in that wood. You're looking for the subtle differences, which, you know, a little patch of wood that sticks out further, that could technically be an isolated little point on that, you know, big long stretch of wood and stuff. So talk to me a little bit about that, Steve, when you're picking apart all this different wood.
Exactly what we did, Madero. What we did is we found some isolated, we found some points that were main river channels coming into the lake, also creeks and some big coves. We would concentrate on those points, and many of the points, the fish weren't on points, but actually they were grouped up just on the inside of the point. So we'd move around the inside of the point slowly. And remember, we're fishing anywhere from 18 to 25 foot water. But in our situation, we had a canopy of bushes and trees that were all the way up to the surface. So what we're doing is actually flipping. We're not casting. We're setting the boat in like 30 foot, and we're flipping up into 18 and just letting it go all the way to the bottom. And when we could find big trees right on the inside bends of those coves or those creek channels on the inside bends going up the creek, then what we would do is when we would hit one of those bigger trees that's setting out just a little bit further than the rest of them, those fish would be ganged up there. And that's something to remember always. When you catch a fish in one spot, you need to get right back in there as fast as possible to that identical spot, as close as you can, and see if there's other fish there. Because many times this time of year, those bigger fish are grouped up in one area waiting on their turn to go up and go to bed.
That's huge, Steve. I love that advice right there. You guys, you got to hear what Steve just said. A lot of times, and this is a mistake that I've made a million times, you catch that one big fish, like Steve just said, throw right back in there, okay? So many times we catch that huge fish. We want to take a bunch of pictures, celebrate, call our mom and dad and tell them, "I told you so. I have become something of myself." You want to just tell the world. Put the fish, put it in the live well if you want to take pictures that bad. Just get the bait back in the spot, because there's more fish to catch right there. And you can turn, a 1 10-pounder into twin 2-pounders. That's going to make your Facebook profile pic look that much better.
Yeah, that's key. And actually, when we did the show, we did that exact thing. And I told the people before we actually got to the spot, because it's a spot that I fished the day before, and I knew those fish were stacked in there. And I told Edgar, the boy that was with me, I said, "Edgar, when I get here," I said, "I'm going to flip up there. And when I set the hook, as soon as you see me rear back," I said, "you flip right to the end and hold on, because it's all open at the same time." And sure enough, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Nick, you guys finding some fish here?
Yeah, I just got bit a second ago, but we're not getting a lot of bites in this spot. I want to actually emphasize a little bit on that catching that one fish and the guys moving on. That's so critical. And a lot of people don't realize summertime, wintertime, usually wherever you catch a bass, there's a few with them. In the summertime, they tend to wolf pack school. There's 1 to 8 in a school, but in the wintertime, there's larger schools than that. You can find a school 16 fish.
That's right.
In the winter, if you get big in the wintertime, or if you land a little fish, it's all little fish. Little fish and big fish school with each other in the wintertime. So literally, I tell people it's a 2 out of 3 rule. And I say 50% of the time in the heat of the sun. In the wintertime, I say it's a 2 out of 3. 75% of the time, it's usually they're schooling. So definitely give everything a try you have on your deck. Anything you wanted to try, wherever you caught that, try it. Switch up colors, switch up presentation, switch up lures, and really finesse fish in those spots way before you ever move on in the winter. 9 out of 10 guys that make a mistake and don't catch them in the winter is they move down the bank and they fish something too big, too bulky, a reaction bait. And they don't even realize that they came through a school of fish, and that school of fish maybe didn't want to react. But when you got something like a rage craw down there, finesse, dragging, looks like a crawdad, an easy meal right in their face, you get one bite on this thing, there's your clue right away. And if you want to try other stuff at that point, it's definitely worth a shot. But you definitely need to fish something that they're willing to strike in the wintertime. Just a bite can give you that clue of finding the school. So don't eliminate the opportunity to even get that bite or to get that fish in the boat. In the wintertime, you need all the clues you can get. So definitely, I prefer to start off finesse fishing. I prefer to bottom fish, and I like to fish those main lake points, rock piles, anything that I know has a high odd of holding a bass in the wintertime.
Very cool. Now for the new guys coming in, I know we've got viewers coming in and out and stuff. Will you guys break down a little bit of the lake right now, a little bit of the conditions, water temps, depths you guys are fishing, water clarity and everything?
Yeah, the lake started off at 45 degrees this morning. It was 30 degrees last night, the outside temperature. The water temperature when we got here was 45. It's now at 47. It's looking like it's going to be close to 60 degrees today, which is good. It should put these fish moving up into active feeding zones, the top of rock piles and stuff. We got about 1.5 feet, 2 foot visibility, and we're fishing offshore. We're focusing on everything offshore, high spots, rock piles, creek channels, and where creek channels meet together. This is where we found our fish so far, and we're having to drag our rage craws. Was that a fish? Oh, I thought it was a fish for a minute. We're having to drag our rage craw across the bottom right now. Oh, hold on. Got him.
That's what I'm talking about, Nick. Live action, baby.
Nope. Weird. On the shaky head. Let me let her go. It's a little guy. I'm actually throwing that on this is a 1/2 ounce shaky head right here. And what's going on is this happens to be the frenzy nail. And I'm leaving it exposed. And let me explain something. Can you guys see this bait up close right there? Or do I need to
hold it closer? Hold it closer. Yeah. So Nick, hold it against the sky, I think. Because it's blending. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I want to show you something. Let me slide my craw. You see that hook right there? See that hook? Yeah. That hook is not inside my bait. It's sitting right on the outside edge. As I retrieve this bait, it's upright like this. And this is a nail. It finds its way through, and these pinchers are up kicking. It's a crawdad in a defensive stance the whole time. The benefit there is if the bass grabs it and swims towards me, it slides very easy, and this is a light wire hook. It's going to stick that fish substantially easy. If it's the summertime and I'm doing a rig like this, I'm going to bury the hook point back inside of my craw a little bit deeper to where it's a little bit more weedless. But in the wintertime, I'm fishing open water. I'm coming over rocks. I like it exposed just like that. I like my craw just to sit up against it to where that hook's going to slide out real easy. I'm fishing lighter line. This is 12-pound fluorocarbon on my bait casting setup. In the summer, I would be fishing at least 15 to 17. But in the wintertime, the lighter the line, it's going to help it get down deeper. It's going to be more finessey. It's going to give that bait more action, and you're going to get more fish. So these little subtlety clues like that are going to catch them for you guys.
Nick, way to come in clutch out on the water, man. During your speech, you caught a fish, dude. if that isn't proof that stuff works, man, I don't know what is. And for you guys just tuning in, that's what the guys are out there doing right now. They're fishing the Rage Craw, which is Strike King's Rage Tail series. And that's what you guys got in the January Lucky Tackle Box. We're going to be doing a handful of Strike King Rage series products this year in the box. So with that, we're going to be doing a whole lot of different learning platforms or teaching platforms with that. We do the how-to videos. Now we're going to be trying to do these on the water live videos as well, so you can really see these baits in action and get a little confidence in going out and using them. And the other gentleman on this call is Steve Parks, who is the inventor, designer of the Rage Tail series.
The legendary Big O.
Yes, legendary Big O. Big O, did you just grab some rods or something? You got some more stuff to show us?
Is he driving out to California right now?
Tell you that what they're talking about, especially when you're talking about the shaky heads and stuff like that and dragging it uphill, that's so important, especially when the fish are wanting a slow presentation. And those fish are actually they're actually bottom related, more bottom related than they are suspended in trees and stuff like that. So the way you stay on the bottom and you stay in the strike zone more often, drag uphill instead of downhill. So I think that's a key way that they're working the baits right now. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, especially when it comes to rage, is the colors, because I'm not sure what the color of day that they have. It looks like it's clear and sunny, so they're probably depending on the lake and the water, what the water clarity is, you want to change your colors. And oftentimes I'll keep changing colors even after I get in the bite. I'll keep changing colors because I want to catch every fish, not just some of the fish or most of them. I want to catch them all. And I know if I can tweak the color as I'm getting the bite, if you've got 3 guys in the boat and you know you're on the bite, then all 3 guys be doing a different, see whose color is working the best. Because sometimes it's all about the color. So it's one of the things that you might want to think about.
Now, Steve, if you were to give us three choices of color selection, if somebody wanted to go, okay, I'm gonna try these Rage Craws out. I want to buy 3, so I kind of have something to experiment with. What would be your 3, starting point colors?
Pumpkin, green pumpkin.
Green pumpkin pearl is also a good color. Green pumpkin pearl. Let me show you right here. Can you see this green pumpkin pearl?
Yes.
Can you see it right there, Travis?
Yes.
You see it there? Okay. Green pumpkin pearl is also a great color. This is because it's a molting color. It's a natural color for craws, and it's actually a pearl color on the belly, and then it's a green pumpkin on all craws on most lakes. So it's something that you ought to consider. This color is a great color. Green pumpkin is great, as Matt and Nick were saying, but I also like green pumpkin pearl. Another color that I like, depending on the water color clarity, is the watermelon red. And then possibly another is this. It's called the Falcon Lake Craw. Falcon Lake Craw is one of my favorites because certain times of year, a lot of the craws will turn red, and they'll have the green dark backs. Then they have red claws, red bellies, and red legs. So Lake Craw is also a good color. It's one of my mainstays for sure, especially down in Texas and all across the South. And there's a lot of people telling us now that, heck, they're using it up north.
Oh, you guys hooked up?
Yeah, they got a double bottom on right now.
Ooh.
Multiple thousands of pounds range. Hey, Steve, Big O, what's the molting crawl pattern?
Molting craws could be
anywhere for the rage.
Anywhere on the Rage Craw. It could be anywhere from this green pumpkin pearl. It also a blue craw. Blue craw. We have a blue craw in our color patterns. That's one of my favorites as well. It's a blue swirl that's going through. It's a pearlescent blue that's going through a green pumpkin base, and it's hammered. One of the things that I like to do especially is I like to tip the tips of the claw on these Rage Craws different colors. Normally, just very little tip of chartreuse
to accent the action, correct?
Sometimes people use too much dip and dye, but actually, if you use just a little bitty tip of a color on these claws because they're moving, and it's just a flash that the fish sees, and then they key on it when they get right up on top of it.
Very nice. You know, I don't see a lot of blue plastics in people's boxes in regards to crawfish patterns, and I tell people all the time, if you have deep, clear water without grass, and I'm going to give people a little clue here, blue is a good color. Blue and black. Black and blue, the same patterns we fish in dirty water, black and blue, because black and blue, they can see it real well. But guess what else happens in deep, clear water where there's no grass, guys, and really no rock? There's a lack of that grass, which is vitamin A, which is what these crawfish need to get red accents in them. When a crawfish has a lack of vitamin A, they have bluish white accents to them. So don't be afraid in clear, rocky water that you don't see grass to fish that bluish, whitish color, because oftentimes you are still matching the hatch of the crawfish. That goes overlooked a lot. Anytime I've got a bass biting on a blue craw style bait, it's something that nobody else has ever even tried. And it's just one of those rules of thumbs. If it's shallow, muddy, grassy, the crawfish tend to have a lot of red in them. They have a lot of red in them. No, once a crawfish inch, it turns off spring. When you're in this 4-inch and smaller, green pumpkin is color for crawfish because they molt. They drop their shell almost every single full moon. So if you're fishing a week or two outside of a full moon, anytime when that water is 55 degrees or above, green pumpkin is probably the #1 color in the country. And I want another one. How we doing over there, guys? You guys need a fish again?
We absolutely do.
Oh, I'm not joking. I totally got slammed right there. That was so random.
All right, you guys, you know what? While Nick is going to try to hook another fish, I'm going to do a quick little diagram for you guys to explain a little bit of detail about some of the things that the guys have been talking about, actually. There's, let's see how much. I'm an artist, too, in my free time. You'll be able to tell that real easily here. So actually, I already messed up my drew it incorrect. Okay, so we've got the little
paper.
Are you hooked up?
I'm just giving you crap.
Okay, guys, so we've got the shoreline that comes in. We've got the water here. Now, they talked about uphilling. This is actually something that a lot of fishermen, they do, obviously, when they're fishing from the shore. When you're starting off, you fish from the shore, and you make your cast out, and you bring your bait up the shoreline, okay? That's easier to stay in contact. And so that bait stays in contact. And this time of the year, when these fish are really relating to the bottom, you're going to be able to catch those fish. You're going to be a lot more consistent at putting that bait in front of those fish. But when you're in your boat, and a lot of anglers don't realize how much that they're losing bottom contact. But when you're on the boat and you're casting to the shore, it's a lot harder to stay to keep contact with that shoreline. If you move to 3 feet, you're actually pulling that bait 3 feet away from the shore, and then that might pull it actually 10 feet off the bottom because that bottom's dropping out underneath it. I do a lot of underwater filming. I'm down there in scuba gear quite a bit as we're filming products, and you'd be so surprised. Even guys that even really good fishermen don't realize how much they're losing contact with the bottom and how much that bait's really jumping off and going over those fish or just acting in a way these fish are not really looking for. So what the guys are doing right now is they're actually lining the boat up shallow, and they're casting out to deeper water and slowly bringing that bait up the shore, which is making sure it stays in contact the whole time.
Spot on.
Now, I want to add one more little thing to these schooling fish that Nick was talking about, because Nick is so right. And this is something that took me so long to realize, that the difference between catching one fish and catching multiple fish is just making sure you capitalize on opportunities. And so when you have the bottom here, and let's say that there is a little stick or something right here, and you've got a handful of fish, okay? Those are supposed to be fish. And you're fishing here, okay? So you catch a fish. Now, when these fish school up, a lot of times they'll follow that fish back to the boat. And so sometimes you can actually pull a school off, especially spotted bass and smallies. They're roamers. They're swimming around just looking for an opportunity. So if you catch one fish, that school a lot of times will follow you back to the boat and be underneath the boat, and you pull them off their spot they're located on. So you may make another cast up there, not catch a fish because that school has come away. So a lot of times if you come back to that spot, 30 minutes, an hour later, those fish will have repositioned back in their feeding spot, and you can catch another one on there. That's a big thing that happens, especially in clear water. I know when I'm fishing Lake Mead or Havasu, you'll pull a school off of a spot, and you've got to give them time to reload and everything. So if you make a couple casts, don't think that there's not more fish there. Just come back to that spot a little bit later.
Yeah, absolutely. With spotted bass all the time. When I was fishing Table Rock Lake out in Missouri, we were filming a TV show out there, and I found that so often in the spotted bass, I would spot them on the graph, and these things would roam literally 300-400 feet around some floating boat docks, and there was a seawall, and I would catch one, and then like all of a sudden the graph would be empty. But if I would sit there for about 10 or 15 minutes and keep fan casting, that school would show back up again. They do tend to frequent the same routes, just like you were saying, Travis. You'll pull them off, or one will chase a bait, they'll all come with them, but then they tend to return to that area way more often. So bass, you can see them disappear off the graph. Don't try to hunt for them too much. Kind of frequent that area. Give it at least 15 or 20 minutes and keep casting. Then if they don't return, go search for them. But like Travis said, you can return to that same spot, go somewhere else, return in an hour, and chances are they will be right there or very close. Come on. Eat it. Oh, that was a rock. That was a rock.
All right, Steve. I have a video posted in the description box below this feed, and that's the rage bug video that you and I filmed down in Mexico. Now the rage bug's got obviously two more little phalanges on it, and a little bigger, a little wider profile. When would you suggest moving to that style of bait? Because you can rig it pretty much the same ways that you talked about rigging the Rage Craw. When would you suggest moving back and forth to different baits like that?
Well, actually, it's a more bulky profile than a craw, and it doesn't have the wide stance flap on the appendages that the Rage Craw has. So it's really a different look, and it's a different style of creature bait. But the fish see it. I mean, when they see it, I believe when they see it, they think it's either fish because the body of it's shaped like a fish, and then of course the tail's back there. I mean, they could see it as a fish. They could see it as but the all of the body, what makes it different, the Rage Craw is. And remember, what we're looking at is what tweaking the bite to its highest level. And sometimes it will be a Rage Craw. Sometimes it'll be the Rage Bug. But with 2 to 3 people fishing in a boat, you can figure it out really quick. And that's on color patterns, on profiles. Remember, you can when you get the profile perfect and when you get the color perfect. That's when you can maximize your bite. But you keep tweaking. Just because you can fish, be happy for sure. But at the same time, don't be satisfied with that being as good as you can do. You can always tweak the bite to its highest level. And that you do that with profile and color.
Nice.
Now, one of the things when they were talking about the blue hues are the most obvious, even in the darkest conditions in water. Even the Navy, they use blue lights because you can see them from a lot further away. It's the last color in the color spectrum to lose sight. So blues are something that are very attractive to fish. And we're just lucky that our craws go through blue hues as well. In fact, you'll see a lot of bait fish that'll have blue hues on them. So don't underestimate the power of blue when it comes to plastics and other bait. The black and blue, like they were saying, the silhouette that you get from a black and blue in dark conditions, cloudy, or low conditions, early or late, and dirty water, that black and blue gives a better silhouette that really helps you out.
Very cool. Now we're getting some questions.
Go
ahead.
Do we have any questions from the audience since we got Big O and I on here?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, one of the questions I just read was when some of the subscribers noticed that we do a lot of our filming out on the West Coast, and they said, do techniques and stuff vary from coast to coast? And so, you know, Nick, I'll let you kind of chime in on the first part of that, and then Big O's out in Texas, and actually really spent a lot of time fishing Florida in his earlier days in fishing as well. So he really does represent the East Coast really well. And I guess I'm going to start real quick and say the easiest way to find out colors in your area is go to the local tackle shop and just ask them what the best-selling colors are at that lake. And they'll let you know, and that's the easiest way to have a starting point. What Nick and Steve are really talking about is they know what colors to go to just by going to a lake. They have experience and stuff like that, and that's what they're kind of informing you. But if you want a quick way, just visit the local tackle shop at that lake, and they'll dial you into the colors that'll probably be the best for you to throw. So, Nick, how do you think things vary coast to coast?
You know, I've been able to travel a lot more over the last year or two, and what I find is that they don't vary as much as nearly people think. You know, there's always that matching the hatch thing, but a good percentage of what we do in regards to bass fishing is reaction baits and using a lure as a tool. And that was grass. Every time. And using lures as tools. And you know why? When we're out here on the West Coast, we have a lot of options to film out here on the West Coast because we have deep clear, we got shallow rocky, we got shallow grass, we have rivers. We like to bring you guys a variety. And for people who don't know, Travis and I are both California guys, and Travis travels a heck of a lot more than I do. But what I find that varies through, you know, when I get through basically middle America, if I'm in the central states, what I find it to be not as big as always is what we do here. So it's not so much a match the hatch. All the same stuff works, but I tend to see more smaller presentations are much more common. 2 and 3 inch baits are much more common in the prime times of year versus in California here. You know, it's known like Florida for these big giant bass where we tend to use a lot of larger baits. And if you look at this, I know we film at Clear Lake a lot and guys are looking and they're like, you're using these big giant swim baits. Well, that same stuff works, okay? They got a lot of yellow states there and we don't have them here. And if you get a yellow perch swim bait, that's about the same size, a 5, 6, 7 inch yellow perch swim bait, there is still plenty of 3, 4, and 5 pound bass that'll eat it. You just got to realize that if you're fishing for 5 pound bass and under, you generally don't want to use an 8 inch bait. You know, that's not appealing to everything that lives in that system. So this is one of the California and Florida things and Texas things that don't apply to all the other states. You guys get a lot colder than we do. So finesse fishing is a lot more prevalent, you know, in a lot of other states than it is here in California. The coldest our water usually gets is 42, 43. So there's a bite to be had on a bigger bait like this. For a lot of you guys in those other states where it's either frozen over with ice or really, really close to it, this is where you want to use rigs like the drop shot, a Ned rig, and you literally want to use little 2 and 3 inch plastics. The Rage Craw like this will still catch them. If you're looking for a little bit better bite, a 4 inch plastic like we're using today is going to get you a better bite. That's still a good crawdad, and that's still going to hold them over for a good portion of the year. I mean, a good portion of the time in the wintertime when they can't chase a lot of bait. So what I realize more often than not is definitely things tend to be smaller. And I've also noticed too, California, the conditions don't really change nearly as abrupt as they do in all the central states. Florida changes fast. You just got to be able to roll with the punches. If you know that it's windy and choppy and overcast, the bass are going to chase a reaction bait, make that switch easier, because me going back in these other states, I haven't really had that much of an issue. The only thing that really pops up in my head is fishing smaller. How about your experiences, Travis?
I agree with everything Nick just said. Nick, you covered it, man. But Steve, are you still with us? I think Steve got.
We lose Big O.
Big O might have left.
Oh.
But hey, guys. So I think we're gonna go. I think we're gonna go about another We're gonna go to 30 past the hour here. So about another 14 minutes on the feed. So if you guys are gonna catch that 10-pounder, go ahead and cue the 10-pounder right now. Now, do you guys still have a couple fish in the live well?
We do. Would you like to see?
At the end, so we'll give it another 10 minutes of you guys fishing, and then we'll pull out those fish so people can see some fish one last time before we go off the air.
Sounds good. I'm trying to break my shaky head free.
Big O is back.
I had to put my phone on charge.
Gotcha. Now, Big O, what would you suggest for people watching in Florida and Texas wondering how much things differ? What's your kind of suggestion? I know we got a lot of beginner anglers that kind of want to know the easiest way to adapt to their different waters, whether it be a pond or a lake.
Clear water, natural colors. Try to stay with natural colors like the green pumpkins, the watermelons, green pumpkin pearls, green pumpkin, anything that has a green pumpkin base. That's usually a great color. Another good color I think for clear water is we make what's called a green pumpkin purple gold. And in clear water, I think it's dynamite as well. But anytime you get to water and the water's stained a little bit, you probably want to have something that's got some flash. And that's when the watermelon reds, Falcon Lake craws, black and blues, the blue craw works good in stained water as well. Works good in clear or stained water. So, it depends on your light conditions and your water clarity. That's when you start.
Nice. Well, Big O, we just talked about that we're going to end the live feed here in about another 10 minutes. So we're giving the guys a 10-minute warning here. They got to stick a 10-pounder in that much time if they want to make live feed history here.
Well, if they go to Commodore with Ron Speed Jr., that happens pretty quick down there. My gosh, I've never seen it. I need to come down to Lake and fish with you boys sometime. That sounds like fun. Or come down there and fish.
Better get out here.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. I need to come down there and do that.
Yep, we'll make Steve.
My buddy's coach saying I need to come out there and fish with him, and I said, okay, maybe I need to come out there pretty soon.
We're gonna get Big O in the broke down motorhome. You can come travel with me, Jake. D Almighty, he had a great time breaking down all over the place. So Big O, you can hop in the motorhome with me, and we'll go on an adventure. Hit up Clear Lake, Berryessa, Lake of the Pines, all the good lakes.
Yeah. Well, I want to tell you one of the things that I think is really
you guys there,
especially for our anglers that are just beginning. Number one, just go out and fish, enjoy yourself, try to get a bait that's got some action to it, that's going to help you catch fish. But another thing, always try to fish where there's deep water close by. If you want to catch not just a lot of fish in one spot, but maybe a big one, access to deep water is one of the number one keys for fish. Access to deep water it gives them an opportunity. It's kind of like a Walmart for them. They can go deep if there's bait that are deep and there's bait fish shallow, they can decide, okay, let's go and eat these a little while. Then they can go shallow and eat on those. So they don't have to be nomadic. They don't have to move a lot. Big fish are not active. Really, they don't move. They don't want to move. There's they want a Walmart that's got everything they want. They either go a little bit deeper for shelter, for security, or they go shallow and eat. So try to find that access to deep water. I think that's going to help you a lot.
Those big fish want the double whopper. They're big boys like us. We don't want to travel far. We want to pull up to the drive-thru and grab a meal.
All right. I rarely fish anywhere that there's not access to deep water, even my spawning fish. When I'm fishing to spawn, I don't fish beds, but when I'm fishing for spawning fish, pre-spawn, post-spawn, or spawning, I'm always really close to deep water because that's usually where the biggest fish are. They pull up, they do their job, and they go back to deep water. So that's just I think that's a key, something to key on if you want to increase the size of the fish that you're catching.
Well said, Steve. Well said. All right, how are we looking out there, guys? What are you guys fishing? What are you working on this last couple minutes?
Now what we're looking at is a little slower tapering rock coming off a main lake point. The water's warmed up a little bit. It's giving these fish the opportunity. The water came up about 3 degrees. And that little subtle change is going to move some fish a little shallower, looking for crawfish up there. It's a lot warmer up on these flats. Slower tapering point, a lot of rock. We're trying to search that out to see if we have any of these deeper fish looking to get a meal. What he said is we are casting it down, but that taper is much more of like a, instead of like a 60 or an 80, it's much more of like a 45. Let me show you a little tip with the rod right here.
Nick, you're either being really still with that rod right now, or we just froze up on you.
Dragging it down a slower tapering bait. I'll go back. Let me know when you got us back.
I think it's coming back here. Let me. Yeah, I think we're good now again, Nick.
Okay, let me go back over that. So I'm going to cast out, and this is a slower tapering bank, but it's still dropping out to deeper water. It's just a slower taper, not fast, much slower. So when I'm dragging down a bank like this, I like to put my rod at 10 o'clock slack and drag it down. If I feel it come over a rock, I'm going to drop my rod tip down and let my bait fall down it. Because a slower taper, I don't need to cast deep and bring it up. That's still a good technique to do in the wintertime. But if you are already out deeper and you want to cast up shallow and it's a slower taper, retrieve with your rod at a higher point. Once you feel it come over a rock, go ahead and give it that slack. When your rod's up, you can literally control about 6 to 8 foot of slack, even at 100 feet away from you. To where if you're coming down and it comes over a boulder, don't keep your rod high to where it's just going to swing off. Give it that slack and let it trace back down that backside of that boulder. Oh,
nice.
Thought that was a fish.
All right, guys. Well, looks like we're getting ready to call it. Why don't the three of you guys go grab a fish each and then come to the front of the boat and show us the fish real fast to end the show?
That sounds good. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead and do it right now. I'm going to click over to Steve. Steve, thanks again for jumping in on this call. Guys, this is a wealth of information for you guys. We're going to be working with Steve a lot this year. I'm going to be doing some trips down to Mexico. The way Steve breaks down footage, or the way he breaks down structure and fishing is fantastic. And so now we're really trying to then show that on film and really help you fully understand what Steve is saying. And so we've got, if you look down in the link right now, you'll see that we've got one of his videos up there. Click on that. That's one that Steve and I filmed earlier last year. And it's a great way on flip and cover and stuff. So Steve, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Hey, guys.
Next time, we're going to get you live on the water.
Okay, I'm ready. Anytime.
Okay. All right. Well, Steve, thanks again, brother. And I will be talking to you soon.
Okay, bud. Take care.
Look at that, guys. Right now, we've got some Lake of the Pines. Nice little bass. Hold them up to the camera, boys.
Got one more coming.
Let's see
There we
it.
go. Feeling
Nice.
a little bit launchy.
Nice, nice, nice.
Appreciate
All right,
it.
guys. Now, Nick, you're going to film a show out there right now as well, right? When we turn off this camera.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. So within the next week or two, you're going to see a great show from Nick from Lake of the Pines and talking about wintertime fishing and everything. So we're going to, when I post this video again tomorrow, I'll put links for Matt Tozer. I'll put his Facebook link. I'll put Matt Frazier's link as well, so you can follow these guys on social media and check them out. And then also Nick, the Informative Fisherman, check out his YouTube channel because he'll be posting a longer video on all the fish catches they got and really break down everything they did. So if you guys enjoyed this live feed, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Thank you for supporting Lucky Tackle Box. We couldn't do this stuff without you guys. And if you guys have any suggestions of what you want us to do a live show on next time, or what product you want us using and what techniques you want us showing, please let us know. And if you have any comments of who you'd want to see in these, if you want to see Tyler Anderson or any of the different guys that we work with, let us know, and we will try to make that stuff happen. Thank you guys for supporting LTB Live, and we will see you on the next one.
Okay.